Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a match preview for Villa's game against Leicester on Sunday at 2 o'clock. This show is in association with Luke Roper. If you use the code, I've forgotten the code, TVV20, then you'll be able to get 20% off all your orders. Great start to the show, Dolan. Knew I was going to mess that up. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, good. You get very stressed out about these intros and outros. I thought a seasoned professional like yourself would just be natural, but you're stressed out over these intros all the time.
Bring back Tom Julian. There's too many discount codes. I can't remember what the discount codes are for all the different shows. So I was bound to mess it up. And let's talk about Villa. Let's talk about the game on Sunday. Then an excellent season so far for Villa. Obviously, I think we'd all be in agreement of that. But you do kind of feel a little bit like we're stumbling at the moment. We're not managing to pull a run of wins together or a run of results. It feels like we win one, then we lose one, we draw one. It all feels a bit up in the air at the moment. We could do with a couple of back-to-backs, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's coincided with the whole post-COVID outbreak, and our form hasn't been great. You look at the game against Palace and Chelsea, and I thought we were at our fittest and we were at our best. I think that Palace game we were just out of this world on Boxing Day, and honestly, think if we hadn't had that little 2-3 week break, I think we'd be a lot sharper, but. Still sitting in eighth. You look at teams around us. Everton are dropping points. They're in a bit of a rut. They're not playing very well. They got absolutely schooled by Fulham. So teams are going to have dips. They're going to have. Look at Liverpool. They're having a bad run of results. Tottenham are having a bad run of results. So it's going to happen at some point. But the beauty of well, not the beauty because it's never good to lose, but with our bad form, it tends to coincide with a win. I can't recall many times this season losing 2-3 games on the spin.
I think it's only happened once, if my memory serves me correctly.
Have we even lost 3 games in the spin?
We definitely lost a couple in a row, didn't we? We lost to Leeds and Brighton in a row, to a couple of home games in a row. So I think we've had spells where, and I don't think we've done 3. We might have gone 3 with that win at some point, but what they have done well that they didn't do last season was when they have lost, as you say, they've tended to bounce back, which is a good trait, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, and listen, just touching on Brighton very, very quickly, because I think people were giving us a bit of stick for being maybe over positive, but I was fully aware that the performance against Brighton was horrendous. It was horrific. But my point was that we played awful. We got a point, and we've kept 12 clean sheets now this season. We were hard to beat, and we came away with a point that we didn't deserve. So it's an extra point on the board. So that was my point, sitting in 8th. I'm not going to criticize the club or the players when we're sitting in 8th place in the table with a couple of games in hand. It was a dreadful result, and yes, the performances haven't been great. But there's many teams that don't play well and get beat. We're not playing well and still picking up a couple of points here and there. Arsenal, Southampton didn't play well, 6 points. Brighton didn't play well, got a point.
I'm sure I agree with the Arsenal one. I thought we were really good. That was honestly one of my favourite games of the season, because although it wasn't like the most accomplished going forward, we weren't all over them or anything like that. I thought that game we had the balance. We looked dangerous and we attacked well. Also, we looked really solid defensively. We didn't have that balance against Brighton on Saturday night. We defended excellently. The goalkeeper had an excellent game. I think we literally had one shot which Barkley rolled into the goalkeeper's arms, and I think that was our only shot on target. We never looked like we were going to score. I think at times with Villa, perhaps it is about finding that balance, because we've had games where we've been excellent defensively and we've had games when we've been excellent going forward. You kind of need to get both levels to like an 8 out of 10, if that makes sense, and find some form of balance.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as I said before, we're very much a work in progress. And there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. And I think I said that Dean Smith, even after the Burnley game, and the West Ham game and Brighton, he even said after the Brighton game he isn't going to do it. He didn't do a debrief, because what's like everyone knows how bad it was. It was one of those games, and he said a game that you just erase from memory. But we're not our free flowing best at this moment in time. But there's still a lot of football to play, and we're still in a very, very good position to attack. And we've got to play Arsenal. So we've got to play Everton and Tottenham twice, home and away. So we can pick up some points against Everton and Arsenal, and teams around us. Then I still think we're good for a top 8, top 10 finish.
What do you think it's going to take? I mean, to be honest, if you knew the answer to this question, you'd probably be on the coaching staff. What do you think is going to get us back to our free-flowing best? What is it that you think's missing at the moment?
I think fitness, and I think training. I think, I watched the Dean Smith interview there. I think it was yesterday. And even with he touched on Ross Barkley. Like, even though Barkley's been back, a month now, he's probably only had about 2 or 3 training sessions. The same with Morgan Sansol. I think he's only had 2 or 3 training sessions, because playing how many games we play, 6, 7, 8 games in 18 days or whatever it was. I'm not exactly sure the exact figure, but they were just recovery days post game. It was all about the recovery. So they weren't getting fitness. They weren't getting training sessions. They weren't working on tactics. They weren't working on shape. It was all about recovering, keeping players fit, avoiding injury, and trying to stay fresh. So that's why we haven't seen the likes of Sansol play. I think you guys made a good point. That was maybe against Arsenal. Why would you bring him on? Into a team that every player knows how Dean Smith wants to play. Ramsey came on ahead of Sansol because he knows how Smith wants him to play. He knows the philosophy. He knows the players inside out. Like, Sansol's still got, again, I think he's only trained twice. So to play that many games in such a short space of time, the players haven't been training. There's been no training sessions at all, really, over these last certain month and a half. So I think now having games now, Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, Saturday, whatever it may be, having 5 or 6 days in between games now is, I think we'll start to see the benefit. I think we'll look fresher. There's Leicester again. They've gone away tonight. Was it Prague? Slavia Prague.
Yeah, playing Prague. Yeah.
Drew 0-0, and tell you what, he went strong. I've got a Leicester fan in work. I was chatting to today. He thought they'd go. He thought they'd go second string. But they went full tilt tonight. They had Schmeichel, they had Vardy, they had Maddison, Tielemans, Sionchu, Evans. They went for it tonight, and they drew 0-0. So that game can only benefit us in terms of fatigue. We haven't played a game since Saturday evening, and we're not going to be playing till 2:05 on Sunday afternoon. So hopefully, having one game in a week, we'll start to get back to our sort of full fitness and look the team that we were looking before Christmas. When we went on that amazing run in December.
I mean, supreme kickoff knowledge, nailing the 2:05. I'd have definitely said 2 p.m. So that's a supreme kickoff knowledge. You kind of feel like it is a decent time to play Leicester. Obviously, they've got their European exertions, which you've just spoke of. Picked up a couple of injuries in the defence recently as well. Fofana's a big player for them. Had a great season so far. James Justin was arguably one of the best fullbacks in the league before his injury. So, yeah, I think he might be back at the weekend, but again, he won't be match fit because he hasn't played for weeks. So Pereira's come back after a massive long injury. He's playing fullback for them at the moment. I think Marty played right back possibly against Liverpool. I think he can be better.
I think Perez has picked up a knock again. When I was speaking to my work colleague today, and I didn't realise how many injuries Leicester actually had, or how many niggles
all season they've been like that.
But for me, I said, how's Vardy's fitness? Because whenever I see Jamie Vardy on a team sheet against Aston Villa, it usually ends in tears. But yeah, I think they're. Listen, they were very good. They got a great result against Liverpool last weekend. They didn't play. They certainly didn't play particularly well. They had that sort of little 10, 12-minute spell where they took every chance that they got, and they put Liverpool to the sword. Obviously, there was a few mistakes in there from the keeper, but they've. But for them to be second in the league or third in the league and have a season where they've picked up a lot of injuries and they haven't got a massive squad, bar
quality squad. They've got quality squad though.
They've got quality over the place, yeah, but it's not there's not much depth there. But yeah, they've got quality. But as we saw back at the back end of last year when we played them at or even at the start of the season, I should say, when we played them at the King Power, they were missing quite a few players, and I think both teams were looking to settle for a draw. And we just had that little bit of magic with Ross Barkley. But listen, it'll be a close game. Bar the semi-final League Cup, they tore us to shreds in the league last year. I think it was 8-0 or 8-1 or something on aggregate. And if you look at the two league games, it was a different story in the cup. But I think to right that wrong of last season at the King Power for me was absolutely huge. For me, that was the turning point of the season going there, because we all know what happened. We were in pieces last year when we trudged off that pitch in March last year against Leicester. We were by far the worst team in the league, at that minute. And for me to go for us to go there this season and win 1-0, that for me was like, okay, these boys have some serious mental toughness about them. You know, they've really got a lot about them to go there, and there's no doubt that would have been in their minds. There's no doubt they would have had to sit and watch that game over again, and it wasn't a great time for the football club, and so it'll be tough. We're a much better team than we were last year, as we all know. But then Leicester have picked up. They've picked up. They obviously had a per finish to the season, but listen, Leicester are a class act, absolute class act.
Really are.
They are a team that we need to be aspiring to. I never thought I'd say that, but Leicester City, man, are a team that we have to be aspiring to, because they're in there. They're as Steve Bruce would say, they've been thereabouts over the last few years in terms of top 4, top 6. They won the league, and then they had a little bit of a come down. But since Rodgers has come in, he's been incredible. Just the way they buy as well. I think the culture of the club is excellent. It's run really well. They buy the right kind of player that fits the profile. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers is just, I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in world football. And I still think he gets a bit of a hard time in the media. But I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in world football. And they're a top side. They play great football. And we're almost trying to emulate them in terms of Leicester would be, the neutral's favourite. I mean, my dad loves football. My dad doesn't support a team, but he loves football, and Leicester would be a team that he would certainly sit down and enjoy watching. And same here, when Villa aren't on and Leicester are on the telly, happily sit and watch a game of Leicester City, because they play some great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they deserve a huge amount of credit from coming back from how they ended last season, because they chucked away Champions League. Yeah. Make no bones about it. They should have been certainties for Champions League, but they fell away. Lost it on the last day, got thumped by Man U, I believe, on the last day of the season, and ended up coming 5th. So to recover from that shows mental toughness. You're talking about mental toughness. The injuries they've had, because it's been all season for Leicester, it just hasn't let up. Every time a player comes back, someone else gets injured, and it's been like that all season for them. For them to be up in second in a season where nearly every team, bar Man City, has been so inconsistent, I think they deserve a massive amount of credit, and it's going to be a really tough game on Sunday. Changes, people are going to say, well, we need to freshen up, we need a couple of changes. What are you thinking personnel wise for Villa on Sunday?
Well, there's a few obvious changes. I think the obvious change is going to be Matty Cash. We only have one right back at the club now, and that's El Mohammadi, and I think he'll come in. Listen, I have no problems with them all coming in. I think he'll do a job, and listen, Cash will be a big miss for us, because he's been one of the standout players for us this season. But El Mohammadi's solid at the back and solid going forward, and he has that experience to cope with maybe Maddison or whoever it'll be. Sort of Roman
Barnes on the left,
Barnes,
I think.
Yeah. So, I'm more than happy with El Mohammadi. I think after that, I think it'll still be what we saw. I think Luis will continue. I think Barkley. Well, I mean Barkley. It's a funny one with Barkley. I don't really know what's going on at the minute with Ross Barkley, and he'll know himself that his performances haven't been up to scratch in the last month. But there's obviously been a case for injuries and coming back and COVID and not really getting to train much. So he hasn't had much chance to, the only fitness he's had is in games. So listen, he'll know himself that he's not been anywhere near it. I can see maybe Nakama coming back in maybe. But listen, we've got options in midfield. It's probably the one area of the pitch that we have options. I mean, Ramsey, Sanson, Barkley, Nakamba, Luis, McGinn. I mean, there's plenty of options there. So I do think it'll be the same team that started against Brighton, apart from Matty Cash, because I think Dean Smith has trust in Barkley. I think he knows that. Even if he's not playing well, he can still turn the game on its head. Ross Barkley, he still has that moment he still has that ability to.
Well, he did it. The King Power.
Out of nothing. Exactly, he did it. The King Power, and he did it at St Mary's. So he still has that ability to turn the game on its head. So I think we'll see the same team that started against Brighton. I think we'll see El Mohammadi come in for Matty Cash, and let's hope Matty Cash's injury isn't too serious. Let's hope it's just going to be a few weeks in the sidelines, and we see him back. We see him back very soon, because he's been outstanding this season for us.
Yeah, I agree with you, Elm. For a couple of games, Elmo's no problem. He's dependable would be the word I'd use for him. He's no frills. He isn't going to come on the pitch and do anything spectacular, and there's no doubt that Matty Cash will be a huge miss, because we're talking about James Justin being one of the fullbacks of the season. Well, Matty Cash has been one of the fullbacks of the season as well. I see a lot on like football Twitter, which probably isn't the best place to get your information, but a lot of, when he was injured, a lot of those like, the accounts I mean. Do you know the ones I mean? Like the stupid accounts with the stupid footballer as the name, like Peak something whatsoever. They're all saying, "Oh, come and sign for Arsenal, come and sign for Chelsea, whatever."
Oh,
so he's having a great season. He's been an unbelievable signing, but for a couple of games, Elmo's fine. I guess the worry is that there's been a few injuries in recent Villa folklore where it says there a couple of weeks. Barkley was one of them, and then you don't see him for 9 or 10 games. So that's always a concern with Villa. But yeah, hopefully Cash is only out for a couple of weeks. And on the selection, people at the moment want blood with Barkley on social media. He's getting a lot of criticism. There's always someone. We spoke about that before, so let's not go into it. But Barkley's the one at the moment. I get it, because he isn't playing well. I mean, I think on Saturday, any criticism was harsh because nobody played well. Yeah. Even Jack didn't play well on Saturday. So having a go at Barkley when he wasn't really getting the ball from the deep midfielders and the team didn't play well, I think that's crazy. But people are going on about work rate and pressing. And I said this on the Athletic podcast with Greg. When Jack played as a 10, it's part of the role. I bet if you watch, because our number 10 plays very close to the striker. So out of possession, you're a 4-4-2, and the 10 is very close to Watkins. I bet Grealish's pressing wasn't massive when he was playing as a number 10 close to Watkins, because that's Watkins' job to lead the press. It's not Barkley's job. So he's getting criticism about stuff that's not really his game, in my opinion. Where do you sit with it? And I think we have to play him to get him back to his best. I don't think sitting on the bench is going to do him any good.
No, I think he has to play. And I think probably, let's be honest, I think there's probably something in his contract that says he has to play as well. But that's just modern day football. That's just how contracts, I'm sure, go, and there's nothing we can do about it. But yeah, I mean, I just think, if he bangs in, a brace or a couple of goals on Saturday against Brighton, and we win the game 2-0, no one's going to bring up his pressing at all. I just think whenever you have a bad game, people just start to nitpick, but he hasn't been great. He still looks a good yard off the pace. He looks like he flags after 60-70 minutes, and he hasn't gone back. He hasn't gone back half the player that he was when he pulled up and went off against Brighton. So, but I think we'll start to see now. Most of our games are, it's one game a week for the majority now of the season. We've kind of had that crazy those 3 game weeks for the last sort of 2 months, and I think once we get him into a proper sort of coaching regime and a fitness regime, I think we'll see him back to the player that we had when we got him on loan at the start of the season. And I think why people are obviously picking him on him, because we just expect so much more from him as fans, because we know what he can produce. And the thing is, like, he knows what he can produce too, and there's no doubt he's he's well aware that he's been off the pace. But like I said, I'm not going to sit here and criticize anybody, because I think to a man, we've been out of this world this season. If you look at where we were last season and how far we've progressed, it's been absolutely meteoric in terms of our rise from last season. Like I said, this time last year we were by far and away the worst team in that division by some distance, and now we are easily one of the best teams in the division. Easily one of the best teams in the division on the eye, and with the results we've had this season. So again, I'm not gonna criticize anybody, but listen, he knows as a footballer, and we know as fans, we can say it, he hasn't had a great game, but such is life. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at a couple of the key, not battles, because I mean, these two players I'm about to mention aren't battling against each other, but I think pretty much if we discount Edison, I think Martinez and Schmeichel have been two of the goalkeepers of the season. Schmeichel, for me, I said this in another podcast today, I think he's not far from going down as a Premier League great when you think that he's won the league off the back of what his father did as well. A lot of pressure on him. I think Kasper Schmeichel's a phenomenal goalkeeper and one of the top goalkeepers in the Premier League. Martinez has made himself up to that level as well this season. 12 clean sheets already. I think he is well on the way to breaking Villa's Premier League record. It could be a game where one of them ends up deciding it, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like Dean Smith said that he thought Saturday was the first game that Martinez has actually kept us in it. I don't agree. I thought the Wolves game. I thought Wolves away. He
made a couple of great.
I thought he single-handedly kept us in that game as well. But yeah, he's bar West Ham again. He's been phenomenal, and there's a lot of really, really top goalkeepers in that division. I mean, there's a lot of good goalkeepers. You mean to name a few: Nick Pope, Schmeichel, Martinez, Leno, Ederson, De Gea on his day. There's a lot of really, really good goalkeepers.
De Gea's day hasn't been.
No, it's not been for a while, is it? Like,
same with Alisson.
Yeah, Alisson's obviously having a bit of a rough patch, but there's a lot of top goalkeepers in that league, and he's both keepers on show on Saturday are by far and away, the best keepers one of the best keepers in the division. But I think comparing their careers, Schmeichel, as you said, will certainly go down as a Premier League legend. The consistency that he's shown, the loyalty that he's shown as well, and it can't be easy. Being the son of
no chance.
Peter Schmeichel, but he kind of goes under the radar because he's not. You never hear about him in the press. He's never out and about. He seems to be a really down to earth, grounded guy, and the kind of player that I'm sure you would dream as a coach to manage. I'm sure he's very, very low maintenance, and he's just been an absolute phenomenal servant to that football club, and his career could have gone south. I know he had a bad spell at Man City, and then he had a couple of loan spells, and wasn't it Leeds?
To work his way back up.
Yeah, wasn't he at Leeds for a while, and then he joined Leicester, and then he came up. But he was playing for Leicester in League One, wasn't he? So he's come up. Yeah. He's come from Leicester, from League One, up to the Premier League, and let's be honest, I never really rated him because he didn't do an awful lot. It's the first 5, 6, 7 years of his career. He didn't do an awful lot. He's only really blossomed in the last 6 years. He's blossomed later on in his career. He's at a very, very, very good end to his career. And
that's what goalkeepers do, though, isn't it? I mean, Martinez is doing the same. He's had a similar path where he's been on all these loans, and now he's number one at Villa. But it's taken till 28 years of age to get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. And, again, you think about Martinez and you think about pound for pound signings. I said to you today, I'd like to do a little show on Aston Villa's sort of best pound for pound signing
Yeah,
in the
we'll do it.
last
We'll do it.
the last 25 years. But, if Martinez carries on with that kind of form at that age, we have him for 3-4 seasons and we finish top six, then he'll go down as one of the Villa greats. For me, there's not been a better goalkeeper since Mark Bosnich. I think Friedel was good, but for me, Bosnich will always stand out. He just had everything. And I think we'll be talking about Martinez in that same breath and that same stature. I can see him being a well, hopefully not, because hopefully Jack will stay. But he's certainly got that kind of captain. He's got captain material. He just commands that penalty box. And I read a stat that he's only punched the ball from a set piece once all season.
He makes a lot of catches. Makes a lot.
What
He tries to
did I
catch
read that?
everything.
Yeah, which for me is a phenomenal stat. Again, how many times? I mean, from just talking about, from my point of view, watching the game, how many times does the ball come into the box? And as you just said there, how many times does he catch the ball? And
It makes it
like,
look so easy as well.
but he just calms everything down, like having that presence, and his game management is just, again, top drawer game management. And you can just see it filters through the whole team. We look a lot more savvy and a lot more streetwise, and our game management is fantastic. And I say it starts with Martinez.
Yeah, I think that the great thing as well is that bounce back ability. Again, he had an off day against West Ham, but what's he done since then? 2 clean sheets. I think, again, that shows the measure of the man.
Yeah.
It shows the mentality of him and the club, to be honest, because, as I say, the club have bounced back on plenty of occasions as well.
12 clean sheets after 21, 22 games is just an outstanding
Crazy numbers.
I mean,
I think Edison's got 14, I think.
Unbelievable numbers. And that defence, that back four as a unit, again, 12 clean sheets. Quite incredible. We shipped goals for fun last year. We shipped goals for fun, and again, even from a back four, back five point of view, including the keeper, like where we have come from, and that's the same back four, bar Matty Cash, but that back four, Mings, Target, and Konza, is shipped 60 odd goals last season, and to have Martinez and Cash come in and for us to keep 12 clean sheets in 20 odd games is quite remarkable.
Yeah, no pressure on Elmo coming in this weekend and in that back four. To be fair, Hawes came in for a few games and
yeah,
we looked the same, didn't we? So you'd hope it'll be the same for Elmo. I'm sure Sky on Sunday, I think it's on Sky, that they'll be billing this game as Jack Grealish against James Maddison. So it'd be remiss of us not to talk about that. I mean, I think they're both fantastic players. I think they're both very different players as well. What do you make of that? Because people will be saying, only one of them's going to go away with England. I mean, I think I know who that's going to be, and he's going to be wearing claret and blue. But what do you make of those two? Obviously, I know what you make of Jack.
Yeah, but I think they're both very different. I think they're very different. I don't look at Maddison. Since I think because they're both really good mates. This is where the comparison comes from, because they're close off the pitch and they're pals, and they people obviously like to sort of compare them. But for a start, why would you want to compare and say who's better? They're both quality footballers. Just enjoy them for what they are. So that's my point on that. On the sort of comparison, they're both potentially world class footballers. In terms of the style, I think they're just completely different. I think Maddison's, he's kind of no nonsense. He doesn't have maybe the flicks and tricks that Jack has, but he has probably a better right foot than Grealish. I mean, I think Jack even said himself, he tends not to score that many from outside the box. Free kicks, doesn't score that many free kicks. Whereas for me, Maddison, a lot of his goals you see come from free kicks or come from outside the box. Whereas Jack tends to sort of weave his way in, and just off the top of my head, just thinking about the goals he scored, they all tend to be from in and around the box. So I just think they're very different. They're very different footballers, but equally quality players. But it's like I've said before, I wouldn't swap Grealish for any footballer in the world at the minute. So, in my opinion, I'd rather have Jack Grealish in my team than James Maddison. But I think Maddison's a class footballer and real class act as well. Real classy guy. I love his post match interviews. I think
he's very good. Very good speaker.
Speaks very, very well, and a very wise sort of footballing head on those shoulders, and seems to know the game, knows the game inside out, and seems to be quite a level-headed guy. And again, he's come up through the lower leagues with Coventry, and played with Norwich and was good at Norwich, and he's carried that on at Leicester. But if you're ever going to say who I'd rather have in my football team, like I've said before, I wouldn't swap Grealish for any player in world football. Maybe Mbappe, but
I was about to say, did you watch Mbappe this week?
Maybe Mbappe, but like
he's got a future in the game, I think. Mbappe.
Yeah. But apart from Mbappe, I wouldn't swap him for anybody in world football.
No, I think Maddison's going to be really unfortunate. I just saw 1 to 11 kids saying both Grealish and Maddison go to the Euro. Surely, I really don't think Maddison's going to go. Honestly, I think Grealish and Foden are on another level to him. I think Maddison's a phenomenal player. Don't get me wrong, but I think Grealish and Foden are on a different level. You've got Mason Mount, who's going to get picked above him. I just don't think Southgate will find room.
See, I would pick Maddison over Mount personally.
Different position, different players. Mount's more of a number 8. I don't see Maddison as a number 8. Really, he's more of a 10. We don't play with a 10 England.
Yeah.
I just think it's a great selection, Boza, for Southgate to have. He's got some great players to pick from. I just hope we don't mess it up in the Euros, because
have you ever known
so many good players?
Have you ever known a top sort of 7 or 8, attacking talent like it? And it's phenomenal. Like, I mean,
we haven't even talked about Sterling, Sancho, Rashford. Obviously, Kane's a shoe-in to go playing up front.
Greenwood, Kane. Yeah, I mean, it's frightening. It's just the thing at the minute we're lacking in. Were we before? Like, it's a bit like, not we, 'cause I'm not English, but I think where the English, were so strong before was that midfield area, and then Lampard and Gerrard and Scholes and Beckham and the like. But and even at the back you had Adams and Ferdinand and Terry, and just had quality centre backs and quality centre midfielders. But now I think England are lacking in the central defence position, and I think they're lacking a little bit. In central midfield. But going forward, it's probably the best I've ever seen in England. England sort of forward or attacking options. I can't recall England having a better group of attacking footballers in the last 30, 40 years. It's quite frightening. And the average age as well. The average age can't be any more than like 25, 26.
I think probably less.
Probably less. Which again is you're talking a decade of this current crop, which you'd like to see them win something in the next sort of 6 to 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think Grealish will win the England battle, but I guess the proof will be in the pudding on Sunday. We'll see who wins the battle at Villa Park, Grealish or Maddison. Obviously, we know who everyone watching this wants to come out top. Dolan, thank you very much for joining me for this match preview in association with Luke Roper. Remember, use the code TVV20. Luckily for me, it's on the screen now, and you'll get 20% off most things. There's a few items that do have an NHS charity donation, so a few things don't count. I think it's the Dapper Villa range, but everything else, even sale items, use that code and you'll get 20% off. We'll be back for a post-match point on Sunday in association with Purity, so join us then, where hopefully we'll be talking about 3 points for the Villa. Only one thing left to say: up the Villa.